Welcome everyone to Moments Off the Mat. I am Communications Manager for USA Wrestling, Taylor Miller, and I am joined by some of our media within women's wrestling and even more than that. So I'll give you guys a quick introduction. If you guys can just wave your hands when I say your name and your outlet, that'd be awesome. So first we've got Derek Lewandowski with American Women's Wrestling. We've got Andrew Spey with Flow Wrestling. Earl Smith with The Open Mat, as you can see behind him. Gab Lord Klein with Transition Wrestling, and Lorelei Inohosa. How do I say
right.
Okay. With Reaper Wrestling. I've never said your name because I always just say your first name.
Lorelei.
Yeah. So we're here just discussing the Captain's Cup and the draft that we had over the weekend. So the Captain's Cup is a women's freestyle duel event that will be happening February 13th and 14th live on Flow Wrestling. And so basically what we did is we picked 6 team captains, and they are Sarah Hildebrandt, Jakara Winchester, Jenna Burkett. I'm like losing it right now. Jenna Burkett, Kayla Miracle, Tamara Menta-Stock, and Victoria Francis. And so they drafted a team over the weekend. And so basically what I want to start this conversation off with, I just want to get some gut reactions from you guys on the draft and maybe some teams that you're keeping an eye on. So I'll start with Derek. What did you think?
Well, I wasn't surprised to see Kennedy Blades go in the first round. I actually said to my brother, she should go in the first round. I think she's a little bit of a mystery still, maybe. Probably not to those inside the wrestling room. I know as an elite high school athlete, it's been tough for her to get matches, against senior level athletes, but they got to wrestle her now. So this is going to be really exciting to watch how she does. I think it's going to be a little bit of a coming out party for her. Not that she's a shock or surprise in what she can do to anybody inside the wrestling community, but to fans, I think, Kennedy Blades is going to be on display at this event, and I'm excited to see what she can do against that field.
Yeah, and Kennedy is on Team Miracle for those that don't know. Does anybody have anything to say in addition to Derek or anything of their own about their gut reactions?
I know that she's one of the youngest that were part of this eligible draft of the Captain's Cup. There's also Ava Bayless. I believe they both go to this.
I think Kennedy's still only 17, right? Pretty sure.
Yeah, so they're she's just, she's the youngest draftee. She's the youngest draft pick out of this whole group. So that's really cool. She was snapped up, right in round 1. And yeah, this will be like a great foray for her to go into on the senior level and get in really just all these super high level matches. So yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to see her get some action.
Yeah, I'll add to that if people don't know, we were trying to get Kennedy Blades on the last 2 Who's Number 1 cards. And I just feel terrible that injuries had kept her out of that event 2 years in a row. And now the fact that, Kayla made maybe a bold pick, people might not have been expecting it, but I think it's awesome that a high schooler could go that high in the draft and she'll get her opportunity to shine. She's got a really tough, the amount of talent in every one of these weights is great. So, but just looking at the names, Alexandria Glaude was in Final X. Skylar Grote's another up-and-coming name that people know. And then, of course, Tamira is in that weight class as well with Kennedy. And she just beat the pound-for-pound #1 woman in the world in Adeline Gray. So one of the biggest stars of any style of wrestling now is Tamira. Now you got a chance to test your might against her. I'm psyched for Kennedy that she'll get that opportunity. And then, just the amount of talent in each weight class means everyone is going to get tested. I mean, there are no easy paths through this event at any weight.
Yeah. So I'm just going to bounce right off that and say, there's no weak links like everybody's saying. So my first reaction to this draft is looking at the weights and where people are at and how they got drafted. So we have intense depth at all different weights. I was looking at the rankings and some head-to-heads that we have coming up at all the weights, 53, and rematches that we're going to see. And I think we're going to see some people who have shown tremendous growth over the last year, because the thing about some of these matches is we haven't seen the ins and outs of their training or their competition in the last couple of months, or frankly, the last year, right? So some of these names we haven't seen since last senior nationals, which is over a year ago at this point. So we don't know what their training situations are. And I'm just so excited to see some of these matches happen. And, you know, once those pools come out, it's going to be even more fun to be like, okay, we can kind of look at what matches are going to go where, who's going to get to day 2. So I'm just super pumped to see these kids take on each other.
Yeah, I did give Kennedy a rank of 4. I thought she was right around 4 or 5 in that group. So, you know, in case Team Miracle blows the whistle and says, "Well, hang on, you know, we got Kennedy Blades," I did give her a high number. So,
All right. You got some
Noted.
credit. That's good.
part of that was, you know, like there are some young names in there, like Lara mentioned. You know, got Peyton Presson coming in. She's ranked 10th in the new ranking from Team Francis. We don't know what she can do yet. I mean, she could totally. Who knows? You know, like Gabby's talking about what kind of training they've had, and some of these young girls coming out of high school into college programs they've developed over a year or two. You know, Peyton Presson could really turn some heads. You know, Gracie Figueroa is still young compared to the field, and she's still up and coming. And you got other names like that too. So, you know, Tristan Kelly, who's on Team Burkett, ranked number 10, and who knows? We just don't know what they can do. So, I mean, their ranking's low, but you throw all that out when you wrestle, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what I like is Victoria Francis's team. Aside from her, everyone else has college eligibility. You have Emily Shilson, Peyton, Desiree Zavala, Emma Bruntill, Skylar Grote. You know, so you may have some people that are lower in the rankings, haven't had as much experience on the senior level, that could create some upsets and really make it a fun event.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
And Earl, like you're saying, like Francis's team has Shielson's number 1, Prussian's number 1 for college rankings. Zavala's number 1, Bruntill's number 1. Grote's obviously not at Brock this year because Brock's not having she's not wrestling at Brock this season. And then Francis is the coach at Life. So talk about a stacked college team as far as we're talking college. Like we're going to see some hard hitters there and see what they can really come out and do against this next level. Obviously, we've seen people like Emily just about everywhere. We've seen Zavala in several cards. Bruntill. Prussian is undefeated yet this season. She's had some really nice wins, you know, so we've seen a little bit about what she can do with some of her attack style and stuff. But yeah, at this next level, it will be interesting for sure.
I kind of want to touch on kind of oppositely from, you know, the people that we have seen this past fall and this past winter on these wrestling cards, and kind of touch on the fact that I loved that the Army WCAP wrestlers were able to make their way back onto the mat in this event. I don't know if everybody knows, but basically all military personnel have been on a mandatory travel ban, starting with quarantine last year and throughout the pandemic. And it's just started to lift up, you know, depending on the areas. And so the fact that, you know, Jenna Burkett being the team captain, but then just these other wrestlers like Whitney Condor and Ariana Villascusa and Randy Belts, who we haven't seen in a minute, and Alex Lyles and Megan Black, who are the new WCAP wrestlers on the scene, just bringing them all to the table and giving them this opportunity to compete again and to get those matches in where they, you know, personally from Jenna, she has wanted to be on, you know, some of the cards that have come up, but you know, she couldn't take those opportunities, the travel ban, as much as she really wanted to. And so not only were they, you know, draft eligible, but most of these women were picks. You know, Jenna's the captain. She scooped up Whitney Condor in the first round, just like, you know, you're coming with me. And then Ariana Villascusa team, Tamira, and then Randy Belts is with Jakara. So we've got WCAP wrestlers on the scenes. Really loving that.
I'm curious just to get you guys' reaction. The first overall draft pick was Diamond Guilford, picked by Tamira Mensah-Stock. What did you guys think about that first pick?
I thought that was pretty savvy when you look at what you're picking for weight class. So it may not be the most well-known name, although she's certainly competed at a high level at 76 kilograms. If you look at the rankings that just came out, she's had a great rivalry with Precious Bell, and those two are right up there. But who else in the division can challenge? Victoria Francis is the captain. You can't pick her up there. Adeline Gray is not going to compete. So why not get one of the top names out there? It's how you're going to do against the field, and that 1 and 2 maybe of that field, or 1, 2, 3, including Diamond Guilford, she's right up there. So you might not think of it firsthand. There's some other people that it might be a little bit more well known, but it just shows that Tamira knows who's out there and who's wrestling, and it helps to be competing and going to camps and knowing everybody out there and knowing that she might get a nice pick there that otherwise other people might not have known.
Yeah, I thought it was a really smart pick by Tamira. Diamond has just been leaving college. Obviously, she trains at the Olympic trainings, and then even last night with Pittsburgh Wrestling Club event that just happened, she competed against Victoria Francis and won 4-2 in that match last night. So it was kind of like a little preview of a potential matchup that we actually might see again in the Captain's Cup. So I think that was a really smart pick by Tamira.
Yeah, and if you look at Guilford's trajectory going back to Senior Nationals 2019, if I'm remembering right, she lost in the finals to Precious Bell. Like maybe got shut out 7-0, something like that. At the top of my head, I can't remember exactly the score, but Precious won it, pretty decisively. And then you look at Guilford's trajectory this year, that kind of flipped, at this year in different events. I think they've wrestled twice, and I think Guilford maybe has won both of those, if I'm remembering right. And then Tamira must have foreseen last night, because as Laura just mentioned, we had an upset last night with Guilford getting the win there. So that's that was a little surprising, because I don't think she was the obvious number 1 pick in the draft. But if you look at her trajectory and the fact that Tamira knows her and has been watching her compete, pretty smart.
Well, and so Tamira's pick of Diamond might have not been the obvious pick, but then the next pick with Jakara scooping up Macy Kilty, that made sense to me, and I was like, yes, definitely. So Diamond might have been, a little bit of surprise, but then the next pick with Jakara picking Macy Kilty, that was pretty on the money.
Well, I like, thinking about the draft strategy, kind of like what Andrew was saying, where, you're taking a really good 76 kilo woman there, whereas you have 50 kilos, for my money, is the deepest weight domestically that we have. So only Whitney Condor went in the first round. Are people thinking, all right, there's a lot of good women at 50 kilos, I can get them in the next round. I need to get somebody at 76 kilos here. I don't know whether you're thinking that or not, but I like the strategy and speculating on it.
That's also a really good point. I was thinking about as I was looking at the matchup. So we don't have the pools yet, so we don't know who's going to compete where, but I took all potential matchups and kind of did head-to-heads for all the potentials and looked at the numbers. And I was thinking, as you're picking these names, or if I'm looking at who I'm going to draft when or where, you also have to think maybe this person won't beat this other person, but they're going to score points against everybody else, because those points are really going to matter in a dual tournament. So I took all the criteria and placed those out by decision and looked at every single potential outcome for what I thought based on the rankings and such. And I think that you really have to think about that, who, no matter what, even if they're not going to win, if you miss a pick, who is going to score against that person that got drafted against you, because those are really going to matter. And who's going to get a tech fall potentially, who might not match up against somebody else, because those are going to be big point differences, I think.
Hey, Gabby, I'm wondering if you can, just for wrestling fans who are coming from folk style, those of us who know freestyle know what you're talking about. Could you explain that piece where, the loser still can get a point?
Yeah. So in freestyle wrestling rules, fall is 5, injury default's 5, disqualification's 5. Those aren't the really things that matter. What really is going to matter is a technical superiority where the loser does not score. The winner gets 4, the loser gets 0. In a technical superiority where the loser does score, it's 4-1. So you still earn that team point, and that could be critical for these matches. Same thing goes for a decision. When the loser doesn't score, it's 3-0, and when the loser does score, it's 3-1. So those points can add up quickly and quickly change like the dynamic. And like, so when you're talking about a dual style scoring for freestyle wrestling, I mean, these, like, thinking about who can get a push out point on the edge or just potentially like hold off that point, like you got to take that into consideration as well.
That's a
Yeah,
really
and
good
Faye,
point.
with you being at Flow, you guys just had the RTC Cup recently. Could you talk about, Gabby's already mentioned it, but how that all actually played out at the RTC Cup with guys scoring in a match they lost, kind of swinging the entire dual win for them?
Yeah,
What do we
exactly. I'm
look
glad
forward
you
to?
glad you brought that up. Glad Gabby got that ball rolling. It creates so much more excitement. I'm remember back to the RTC Cup. Now it was the same format. It was 6 teams, 6 weight classes. With just 6 weight classes, it's going to come down to criteria. So you kind of have to like port over what you know about folk style, and so your match points are your technical points, and then your dual meet, your team points. Those are your classification points. And so first you got 6 guys. The first criteria, 6 matches. The first criteria is most wins. If you win 4 matches or 5 or 6, you're going to win the duel. But if it comes down to 3-3, then it goes to classification points, which are your team points. And that's where being able to score in a losing effort, you still get 1 point for your team. So that's a good way to catch up and negate maybe some bonus points. Or if you get tech balled or pinned in one of your 6 matches, you can make that up by scoring points there. And then it means guys are fighting for every point. It creates more excitement, the match within the match. Usually in folk style, you just see it in heavyweight where, okay, all he has to do is not get pinned, or all he has to do is, lose by a regular decision or something, keep it down. In these scenarios, every match, there's only 6. It's heightened importance in every of those 6 matches. You can't make it up. You have less matches to go, make up the difference in. And it means you got to fight for each point. Everybody's still in it going into the last 2 matches, which come really quickly. And it was surprising how exciting and how much I appreciated the format. Going into it, it was like, all right, we only have 6 matches. It's going to be weird. I'm not sure this is going to be as good as the folk style drama that I'm used to, but was pretty pleasantly surprised. And I think most people were that the drama was heightened. And you don't lose any action. If anything, you pack more action into those matches.
I am so ready for the drama in this. So
Yes. And so like talk about drama and duels and the format and such. When you like, somebody literally told me this today. Who did they say that you like duels bring out, like they let the drama unfold in front of you? Because I was telling them my thoughts on why I think this duel is so important for women's wrestling in general. On the men's side, we see these college wrestlers, we know them and we are enrolled in their journeys because we watch duels and the fans are like, they are enrolled in what is happening on the mat. For women's wrestling, we haven't been able to see a lot of that until this season when the pandemic really forced us into a situation where we had to bring on the dual meets. So duels and team engagements are generating enrollment for the fans. And a lot of people don't know women's wrestling that way. They don't know the college girls. They don't know the senior level girls as personally because they've only seen them in tournament style events, right? So when we have enrollment from the fans and we really have that buy-in and we watch the drama unfold, we get to learn and see the emotions. We get to see like what type of stuff goes into their training, and we get these interviews, and you're going to have this buy-in from fans. And I think it's going to completely change the dynamic for women's wrestling. And so I think that this format and the drama is going to create enrollment, and it's just going to change the way we see women's wrestling. And this is just a taste of what we're having out there from the sport.
Yeah, I was thinking that too. I think it's common to kind of follow the stars of the sport, and I think common wrestling fans, even in the men's community, do know a lot of our top stars: Adeline Gray, Tamara Mensah-Stock, Forrest Molinari. But an event like this is really going to introduce a lot of new names to people, as it might come down to a certain match, or a younger wrestler has to perform, maybe score that extra point, for their team. And that's kind of the same thing that happened when I watched the RTC Cup. I'm a big men's wrestling fan too, but it was cool to see all these second tier, third tier wrestlers on this big stage where I did not know a lot of them to the degree I know now after watching that event. So I'm just excited to see some of those, second tier, third tier stars shine on this big stage and have that opportunity.
Y'all, people love teams. I love teams. Football teams, our basketball teams, wrestling teams. It only makes sense. We focus a lot on the world team members. There's 10 women that we can kind of focus on each weight class, and even the national team too. But I really think that the Captain's Cup is a great way to recontextualize, having these 6 different teams with these various tiered wrestlers. It's going to give wrestling fans just new dynamics and new dynamics to deal with. You can look at each team and you can find, maybe who you identify with, or, you might be a college wrestler. So you might be looking at, like Victoria Francis's team, it's packed with college wrestling. You might look at Team Jenna, if you're more familiar with those world team members. And obviously just new faces with these veterans. So just recontextualizing and just getting on board with these teams, I think is a great idea.
Absolutely. And 6 deep, that's going to be huge. There are going to be some matches here that we're going to see that are just going to be, I think, lightning. I think that they're going to be just like electric. And I think it's really going to shock people with what's going to happen. Like, we've seen some of these matches recently, right? And so, like, I think that tables can turn. And like, the other thing is going to be like, some of these girls, some of these women, like getting back down to their regular weight and making scratch weight, like that's going to add a whole new element to the ball game. I think like that's going to bring a whole new thing. And like, so the other thing I was really thinking that's going to be cool for having this dual format and having the Captain's Cup specifically for women's wrestling. And this was something that I was reflecting on pretty deeply, is because like, when we first started seeing this type of event come out and there were a lot of men's matches and just some women's matches on the cards, we have to really start thinking like, this is a disruptive thing. Like, this is a disruptive moment, and we can react and adapt, or we can respond and like start having space to think critically about what it means for the future. And so for women's wrestling specifically, in this moment where we are now taking time to respond and think about what type of future we are creating and what that next step is with events like this, which these are not going away. Like, these events are not going away, right? And so as we start to think about that and have more space to do that, we have to realize we have to have parity in the women's cards immediately, and we have to have those opportunities, because if we don't, we're going to play catch up. And we can't be playing catch up like as if we're doing state sanctioning or we're trying to provide opportunities. We have to step together and do it, because if we create something new and we bring parity from the very beginning, we have just decided to be like, this is the future that we want, and here's how we are going to create it. And so I think having an event specifically like this for the women brings a whole nother element to not just like the competition, the depth, but to the economics and the business of wrestling. And I think that's critically important for us right now.
To Gabby's point, I'm already ready for Captain's Cup 2022. I mean, let's do 2021, but I'm already ready for the next one.
What I love is, all of us here, we're wrestling geeks. We've been up at 3 a.m. and watched tournaments from Russia or wherever. And, this format is just so much more fan friendly for, a novice fan and the hardcore alike. You watch a tournament overseas, you watch one wrestler, then you have 30 minutes between that one and the next one you're wrestling, or, if you're just following the domestic wrestlers. And, these dual meets, it's just an easy chunk of, an hour and a half or 2 hours, however it's formatted, that's what it's going to be. And it's so much easier to digest and understand for somebody who's not 100% emotionally invested into, every single match.
Yeah, looking ahead, like Laura Lay, going to 2022, all that. Hopefully we can get some fans, because going to something like WCWA's and hearing even just teammates cheering on from the different colleges. It doesn't have to be a sold out arena. That'd be nice. Let's get there too. But just having teammates on the bench is going to be cool. And so I hope this gives everybody a nice taste of how exciting women's wrestling could be, and how much emotion and drama can come from any style of wrestling, but certainly women's wrestling as well. And this gives a nice, and like Earl was saying, you get your nice digestible chunk. You can go in there, you can tune in, you can watch it all unfold, and however long it takes, about an hour, I think, is how much along the men's matches with just 6 freestyle matches. You can consume that, enjoy that in a nice marketable way, and then say, all right, this is wrestling. So if we create more wrestling geeks that way, and now everybody is just into wrestling all the time. Wonderful.
Can I just say that 62 kilograms is the death squad? I mean,
Yes.
Are we in agreement on that? Is 62 kilograms?
Yes, agreed.
I mean,
I don't know if I would have turned it the death squad, but like 62 kilos is scary.
I wanted to capture
Like-
everyone's attention.
And then, one thing we didn't talking about surprises, seeing Mallory Velty going in the 3rd round, that was
Yeah.
pretty crazy. World bronze medalist. I think it was the last pick of the 3rd round as well.
One of the other surprise too, definitely Mallory Velty, but one that I don't know if anyone, at least on our end, expected was Xochitl Mota Pettis getting drafted by Tamira Mensah-Stock. I didn't even know until she picked her that she was even part. She was an eligible.
Yes.
So,
She was not on the sheet that I had. I was like,
Yeah.
whoa.
yeah.
Yeah, that was fun.
that
That was really fun.
Gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah, for those of you that watched the draft, I did not know either, clearly.
Well, I'm glad she's in it. I think she's a great choice in selection here. I think and then plus she's at 62. I mean,
Where did that
pretty
go?
excited for that.
Emma Brent.
50 and 53 are pretty loaded too. I think one of the things that's really interesting about 50 is I feel like, maybe 5 out of 6, and recently maybe you could say 6 out of 6 with Shilson added to that number. They've just wrestled each other a lot. There's a lot of history there, a lot of rivalry. They're very close to each other. I think obviously Sarah's pulled away a bit, but man, every match at that weight is going to be exciting.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so Larley mentioned about like the Army women not being able to compete recently. I mean, Vila Scusa, she the last 2 times Catherine and her wrestled, she beat Catherine. And
Mhm.
so they have not been able to compete. And Catherine's had a whole nother year. And so talk about these girls, some of these girls have wrestled each other at 53, but I think adding Vila Scusa back in the mix is going to be a really interesting factor to see where and how people have developed and grown mentally and emotionally and
Well,
athletically,
it's like the
obviously.
king right now, she just
Mhm.
keeps climbing, and
Mhm.
has she closed the gap enough to break into that top 4 that she's
What happens when she's back down at scratch weight though? I'm so excited to see is she faster? Is she better? How does she fit in with these other women?
Yeah.
The lengthwise, how does body fit into that? And so I'm super excited to see her back down at scratch weight for her regular weight class. And then the other thing is Jakara down at 53. What does she look like at scratch weight? How is that going to go? I'm so excited to see that. So
I have a question, Taylor. So I know this event's being held in Iowa City. Is there any other word on location? I know it's just been kind of undisclosed, but is there any more details to that?
As far as I know, it's all still undisclosed. So
I'm guessing the Extreme Arena. That's been, for senior nationals in this past last weekend. Just the use that they've been able to get out of this new Extreme Arena. I think it's, it's very, it's a good personal fit, to get up if you're a fan and if fans were allowed to come to this event. It's great to kind of get close to these matches, and I don't know, it provided that context for viewers and for other wrestlers too. So that's my guess. I feel like it'll be at Extreme Arena, but I guess we'll wait and see.
I can guarantee though it'll be on your in your living room on Flow Wrestling.
Yes, all your devices, all your apps. Thanks, Taylor. That's-
Yeah, but it sounds like Laura Lay's going to try to show up somewhere. She's just going to.
Yeah, I know, right?
I really want to be part of that duel. This is such an exciting event, y'all. And I know, even though we're going to be watching this at home, each and every one of us, the excitement is palpable already, but it'll be as if we're there. And I wish hopefully next year, if we have another event like this, fans and viewers can actually go and be part of it, because there's nothing like actually being part of it. Just like we've already talked about, these duels are just very exciting. They're very intimate. It's palpable, you can feel it, and you bounce off of each other, and just as you're going through the matches and going through the duels, it just builds an intensity. And so yeah.
Yeah, I want everybody at the events watching, and then we can get all of us together in a room as opposed to having to do these Zoom calls. We get a real press conference, a real discussion roundtable going. All of that. I can't wait for everything to go back. I think speak for everybody about all events.
I'm in.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, we don't have a ton of time left. So kind of what I want to do just to end it is to, we'll go around the horn. I want to know what team you are most intrigued by or that you're going to be paying the closest attention to and why. So this time we'll start with Lorelei and then we'll just go counterclock, or I guess that's clockwise for me. So
You got to point us out because I'm not sure what tiles are on your screen.
there. Okay, Lorelei, we'll start with you.
Sure. I'm really looking at Team Jenna. Again, bringing in those vets with Whitney Ponder, Catherine Shy, and Mallory Velty, and bringing Whitney Ponder and Mallory Velty back into the fold, but also these young up-and-comer Tristan Kelly out of Colorado. I'm really, really excited to see what she can bring to the table. I know she already competed against Adeline Gray at Senior Nationals, and that was really awesome to see. So yeah, I've got my eye on Team Jenna. Also, Christy Davis is the team coach. Like, how awesome is that? I mean, all the team coaches are awesome, but I've got my eye on Team Jenna.
Very cool. Gabby, what do you think?
Yeah, so I feel like I'm between a rock and a hard place here. I'm on team all of them because I'm a fan of great wrestling, and like once those pools come out, I think I'll be more comfortable in saying how I feel. But I think that I'm watching several of these teams just because of how how I think they'll match up. Yeah, I'm watching a couple of the teams. I think they all have really great wrestlers on them, and I think that I think we're going to see some shocking things unfold here.
Earl, what do you think?
Well, I was surprised hearing Derek's rankings just because I wanted to go in it just with my opinion for now without actually breaking down the numbers. So just my eyeball test was Team Jakara. That's the team that I kind of really was drawn to. So it was interesting seeing that maybe the numbers at this point don't back that up. But I'm really excited about that team. Macy Kilty, Elisa Lampe, Gracie, Alexandria Glade, Randy Belts. That's a lot of women who have wrestled for world team spots, done international stuff at age group. So, that's a team I'm going for, even though, maybe the numbers don't back it right now.
Yeah, and actually, Derek, I want to hit you last. So, Spay, what are your thoughts?
A lot of heavy hitters. Every team looking really tough. I think 50 kilos and 62 are going to be absolute brawls. Just every matchup there is going to be fun. If I had to pick one, it's tough to go against Tamira, just knowing what she recently did, and she's going to be also wrestling. So it's like that's bonus points. Most likely coming in all of her matches, and those bonus points are might be the deciding factor. So maybe I lean that way, but man, I like Sarah's team is extremely balanced. Jenna's team, Jakara, I mean, they were all, I'm going to name all six, and then Kayla and Victoria, all awesome too. So, but yeah, just going right now, maybe those bonus points from Tamira is what shades me a little bit more towards her team, but they're all going to be fun.
Yeah, and Derek, I want to hear your pick, but also if you could go through your rankings again, because I lost you guys for a second. I hope that doesn't reflect in the recording, but just in case, I'd love to hear your rankings.
Okay.
Again.
Yeah, well, I'll just start by saying I'm Team Mensa Stock. I do like stats and numbers, but using Earl's eyeball test too, right up and down the lineup, they're tough. I don't see a single match where they won't be competitive. And I do see bonus points there too in a lot of those matches. I'm intrigued by Team Francis, even though they have the lowest, power ranking index. I can't remember who it was that I think probably Gabby that brought up that it's a team of college students, which probably accounts for why they have the lowest PRI. So that's going to be fun to watch. It doesn't mean that they won't be able to do well. They're just unknowns at this level in some way. So that's going to be really cool to watch. And, they could really surprise. I mean, I'm looking at Emma Bruntel right there. She just continues to surprise. She just beat Jennifer Page, last month. So that team is, to me, they're the dark horse. They could be the Cinderella team in the mix. So I'll go through the power ranking index one more time. Number 1, Team Mensa Stock, 3.83. Number 2, Team Hildebrand, 4.67. Number 3, Team Burkett, 4.83. Number 4, Team Winchester, 5.3. Number 5, Team Miracle, 6.0. And number 6, Team Francis, 6.16.
All right, good stuff. Well, I want to thank you all for being on this call. I know we've got some time restrictions, but also my pets are going wild. I'm hearing things like literally getting knocked off the kitchen. So thank you guys so much for your input and being on this call. I think it's going to be an awesome event. And hopefully we can all get together soon, maybe a recap and chat a little bit more about it. So, all right. Thank you guys for joining.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. It's great to be a part of it.
Thank you. Thank you.
You.
guys.
Thanks, guys.